we're going to tie another topic in. We got a couple more topics here before we wrap things up. I want to tie this into kind of what we were just talking about. Is less really more in collecting? Because I've seen this idea debated back and forth for quite a while now about, if you have more figures, that's better for your collection, or if you have less figures, that's better for your collection. So it really just is a matter, I think, of perspective and personal philosophy. Like everyone's going to view this a little bit differently. That said, is less really more? Because that's kind of the mindset that I've been approaching. Not that you want to have so little figures that you barely have a collection anymore, but I will say you have something that represents you, represents something that you really love and that you care about, and then you have a very personal connection to your collection where you feel like you want to walk into your collection room and love every single piece that you look at. That's what I feel like is the goal, right? That said, Marco, I want to start with you first on this one. Is less really more, or is more more? Because maybe you could have more things to bring people in and more things for them to look at, or more things for you to look at. But do you really love all those things? That's the question,
Yeah, so I would say less is really more, honestly. You look at the DTOFs behind me. I just got my Modu cases in, which are on the other wall. I could have, replaced all these DTOFs with Modu cases, which still may be an option down the line. But I really love, the look of when it's like one or two figures displayed together, because they look more valuable, in my opinion, right? Like it just makes it look special. And then it has room to breathe, so you're able to admire just that figure by itself a bit more. But I'm kind of coming to the point where I'm like running out of space. I gotta, display multiple figures together. And then at that point in time, am I diluting my, collection a little bit? Because I'm going to see here really soon once I display everything in the Modu cases, which look great. But it's like, is that really my preferred way? Or would I just prefer to, shrink down to the collection, only figures that I really love, and display those kind of one-offs? So yeah, I think I'm leaning towards. There you go. Ben Thomas is a perfect
Ben's a good
example.
I was thinking of Marco. He has the shelves and less is more.
Yeah.
I love this expression he's got on his face.
So good right there. You could just tell he smoked a fat one, but
yeah, he did.
So no, I love Ben's collection. Like this is a perfect example where it's just like, it just gives the figures room to speak by themselves. Now there's no wrong way to display. Everyone's going to have their preferred options. But for me, I think they just look so much better when it's not all crammed together. So I would go with less is more in this instance.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm with you overall, but I guess it just depends. How much do you love is really the question.
It's true.
Carlos, what do you think? Is
everything.
less? Yeah, exactly. Maybe you do, but is less really more, Carlos? To me, I feel like it's more intimate with your collection that way.
I think less is more. It can really apply to a lot of things, but yeah, man, you can keep buying, one figure after another and then another and then another. And then you realize you're sitting in a dark room by yourselves, holding a Diet Coke in one hand and Cheeto bag in the other. And you have 300-400 figures around you. And you're like, is this what I do? Right? Like
it actually sounds kind of great, Carlos.
That sounds like a dream, actually.
You know what I mean? Right. Is this what I do? You know what I mean? So it's like, no, man, like less is more. And here's why. Collecting is not supposed to be, end all be all for any of us. It's supposed to be a small part of our world. It's not supposed to overtake our entire life. And when you go and have 300, 400, 500 figures, that's a lot of cleaning. That's a lot of maintenance. That's a lot of shelves. That's a lot of things you need to do. And some people can handle it. That's great. But I'm speaking from my perspective and what I think the average collector will be. And from what I've heard a lot of people tell me after tier-based collecting or TBC. I think you start looking at it and understanding that if you have a smaller collection, 30, 40, 50 figures, or 60, whatever it may be, something small but still substantial, and it gives you the freedom to skip on certain figures. Maybe you go 2-3 months without buying something, but you know what? It's okay. Like all these figures will always be around. It gives you time to, I don't know, go breathe some air and not necessarily be in front of a computer all day. Go take a vacation with your wife. Go on a date. When's the last time you've taken your wife on a date? I'm not saying anyone here. I'm just saying in particular. Right. You know what I mean? Like it gives you the flexibility to do that. So less is always more. Not necessarily from a like, yeah, you're going to enjoy your collection, but it gives you more because you have more freedom to do other things in your life. Not just like, hey, I need to do all this. Now,
Can I challenge you really quick on a point
Sure.
though, Carlos?
sure.
Oh, let's
You
do
say
it.
always, but I want to say like it's kind of each their own, right? To each their own is the way to say it.
To the
Where
way
it's
they can manage it. Like, because I know like Kiko, for
Yeah.
example, he has a ton of figures, but he can manage it. You know what I mean? So that's my point. Like, it depends how you can manage. So that's what I'm saying. I'm speaking from I think the average collector, and I would agree that I would say that for the average collector, less is always more. Not for everyone, but for the average. I mean,
For the average collector. Yeah, because I get where Marco is coming from. Like, it's a matter of like everyone's going to view their collection a little bit differently. And I guess it matters how much you want to invest into it, how much money and time and energy and stuff you want to invest into it. I can just tell you, I mean, from having moved back and forth between states, like moving even 50, 60 figures is like, damn, this, it's not fun, right? And I can't imagine moving 500. So it's just, it can be very time consuming, and it kind of can suck the joy out of collecting sometimes when it starts to overtake your life. That's just my take. But again, everyone's going to be different in how much they want to take on and what they want to do. So
Right.
Marco, I mean, you pretty much are kind of a less is more mentality, right? I mean, you probably have, what do you have, like maybe 30 to 50 hot toys, something like that?
Yeah, so I would say I'm like pushing like 60 now, if not a
60,
bit more.
right.
I haven't taken, an inventory yet, but
That's like
kind
a
of in that
moderate sized
range.
collection. It's pretty
Yeah,
good.
no.
Yeah.
how many you
For
have?
the fact that, how many do I have?
Yeah, is that what you? Is that,
Like I would say like around the 60 mark. I need
That's
to
pretty
count
good, though.
everything.
Yeah,
up,
that's a
but,
lot. That's a
you know,
lot.
you include
Yeah.
pre-orders, and like I'm going to be close to 100 here soon, and that's scary, honestly. Like,
Yeah, it is.
I'm kind of out of space, and so I really do need to start paring down. Now, if I
TBC.
had a huge house and a bunch of, there you go, right? And so, that's kind of the calculus I run through myself, but I like a lot of things. I like the classic films, like the Terminators. I like Star Wars, Marvel, DC. So it's like you can get into trouble really, really quickly. So
Yeah.
I don't want to tell anyone what to do, but I feel like, it's great that we have these conversations because, in the community, you can kind of encourage each other to, think one way or another, and kind of to each their own. Like
Right,
USB said here in the chat, he was like, he kind of has displays with a bunch of figures, but that works for him. So
Right.
Yeah.
I don't have the space like he does. So it's never going to be,
Right.
that's not going to be the collecting way for me.
And there are a lot of collectors who have a really, like you mentioned, Carlos, Kiko, and I'll let you go real quick. Like Kiko, and a lot of collectors have a really massive, I like Justin's collection too. I mean, like there's a lot of collectors out there who have a lot of figures who do it well. It's not how I like to necessarily display or how I like to collect, but to each their own. Like if you want to have a lot of figures, there's really nothing wrong with it as long
Right.
as you're doing what you want to do and being responsible.
Right. No, yeah, definitely. Like one 6-shooter says I have about 300 and can manage to keep everything clean and dusted. And that's great. I'm not saying, again, there's something wrong. I'm saying from the average collector, from the more people that have reached out to me, because of TBC, they're saying like, hey, less is more. And I keep hearing that over and over, or they're trying to scale back to make
Right.
it easier. From an average collector, that's what I'm meaning. The less is definitely more. But look, if I had like I said, Kiko, he can manage all these. That's great. I know I couldn't manage 300 figures because I had 300, almost 300 figures, and I couldn't do it. I had like 265 or something, and I definitely couldn't manage that many. It was just getting out of hand. So for me, I couldn't do it. Sounds like for Marco and for Will, we're in the same boat. So that's what I'm saying. For
Right.
the average collector, I think less is more. So you can,
Right.
go do other stuff.
Right.
Sorry.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I mean I'm pretty close to you guys. I was thinking I had about 40 hot toys, but I was counting them the other day, and I have about 40 figures. I have about like 30 some hot toys. So, and I have like maybe like 5 to 8 third party figures and Inart and whatever. I probably have like maybe 40 something figures, but like 30 some are hot toys. So yeah, and there will be more, Marco, like you said. There will be plenty more that will be coming. Like Chromando's coming, the Bane, any number of figures, Darth Vader DX. There's a lot of figures on my radar that
It's like Tetris, right? It's like
well,
before you
Shang-Chi
know
and
it, it's like-
Wenwu, bro, those are coming any day now. Those are both coming home. So, I mean, like that's why you gotta, we've kind of preached the idea, at least for some who want to keep their collection manageable, like keep yourself to a max of, whatever your space is. But for me, it's like 60 to 65 based on the module cases that I'm going to have. So,
And it lets you do other things. I think I want to always, make sure that, because when I got into collecting, it was all about collecting, and I forgot to do other things. So
Right.
I always want to, hey, if you don't want to, that's fine. But man, life is great, and get out there, breathe a little air. Don't be in front of the computer. You'll be all right.
Yeah,
So-
that balance
I
is
think-
really important. Oh,
yeah, go ahead, Marco.
Will.
Sorry.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go
I was
ahead.
going to say, no, that balance is so important, right? And that's kind of like what we try to talk about often. Sorry, Pancake's losing her mind over here. Go ahead, Will, and then I'll jump in.
No, I was gonna say that it's one of those I think where at the end of the day it's good. Collecting is great, and there's a lot of great things I want to do, and for all of us. But balance, I think, is healthy. I think just for
100%, 100%. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, like, and again, nothing wrong if you have 300 figures. But I know Kiko, for example, and I'll just say this, and hopefully no one takes offense. He has 300 figures. He's out with his wife on like the Bahamas, so it clearly shows you he can do that and he can vacation, and that's what I'm saying. Like, enjoy life. This is supposed to be in addition to, not overtake everything. Like, one of the things, man, like I really made a, and this is gonna sound kind of weird, but me and my future wife, or because we're gonna be married in September, we decided that this year might be our last year in California before we go to Utah. So we're like, you know what we want to do? We want to go and explore Disneyland and explore every little bit. So we went and bought the year pass, and so we're fucking going like no tomorrow. And that's one of those things that I just want to have an experience, and that's pretty pricey. But it's like, well, would I rather have a figure, or that experience is going to be for me forever? Because guess what?
Yeah.
Figures fucking have pleather and they peel. 2.0s come
They're
out.
not forever.
Nothing's
never
forever,
forever.
Carlos.
You know what I mean? So
That's right. But you're right. Like, some people can have 300 figures and go on vacation to Europe, and
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I know
that's
that
fine.
I can't do that personally, and you should never be trying to keep up with someone just because you see someone has one thing.
Right.
You just got to do what works for you.
right.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
All right,
bro.
guys.
Utah. Larry asked Utah. Yeah, man. I have family in Utah, and my dad.
Some nice areas.
I want to stay very close to family because my dad has medical conditions. So worst case, I'm like 6-7 hour drive. I can be there the same day. So yeah, that's why Utah.
Yeah.
Sorry to hear about your pops, Carlos, but I did not know that there were Latinos over in Utah, but it's good to know.
Oh,
There are now. Yeah, they are now.
yeah, bro.
Absolutely. Well, guys, thanks so much for your thoughts on that one. We got one more topic for the evening.